It's time for Twig This Week in Google, episode 51. Coming up, Jeff and Gina, we're going to talk about a new application that makes it easy to write Android phone applications and a whole lot more. This Week in Google is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly. Cachefly.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 51, recorded July 14th, 2010. Open source loves you. This Week in Google is brought to you by GoToMeeting, the affordable way to meet with clients and colleagues. For your free 30-day trial, visit gotomeeting.com/twig. It's time for Twig This Week in Google, the show that covers the Googleverse and the cloud. Cloud computing in general as well. With us right now, of course, the great Gina Trapani, founder of Lifehacker and blogger at smarterware.org, the author of the software formerly known as Think Tank.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Hi, Gina. Welcome.
Hello. Thank
Good to see you with your Madonna mic.
My Madonna.
Also here, Jeff Jarvis with, well, his steampunk
far less
mic.
fashionable, geeky, dorky mic.
He has the Kraftwerk mic on. And Jeff is, of course, a professor of journalism at the City University of New York. Very well known in journalistic circles for years. The author of What Would Google Do? And blogger at buzzmachine.com. Great to have you both. No Googlers with us, although we got a thumbs up from the Google that we could perhaps do a feature, which I'd like to do starting soon, with a featured Google product and engineer every week, just for 10 minutes. So I think that's a chance for us to talk about something Google's doing with somebody who's writing the software and get kind of an inside story on that, which I think will be fun. So I believe that's in process. We'll get that started pretty soon. Meanwhile, I guess we're going to talk about cell phones again. Somebody said that Google was on track. I haven't looked at the graph, but that Google's on track to have 100,000 apps on Android by the end of the summer. Does that sound right, Jeff? That's not your number, I hope.
No, it's not. I got 5 numbers in case you steal any of them.
Smart man. He's number rich today. That's a lot. I mean, really, how many applications do you need? If it's got the applications that, you know, the key ones you want, 20, 30 is fine, but 100,000 means you have a good shot. Yes, it's not 250,000 as the iPhone has, but it's pretty solid. And I think what you're seeing is if you compare iPhone growth, app growth to Android growth, Android is really fast. It's growing fast.
But it only amplifies the problem we talked about last week, which is the crap problem.
Right.
And how do good, well, 2 problems really. First and foremost, how do you discover good apps? How do good apps move up? There's not a good way to do that in either marketplace, I think. And then the second problem is how do you get good apps made and really excel there? And that's where I think we talked about last week. I don't know if this is newer news, the $5 million that Google's going to invest in YouTube.
We missed that last week, and I think that's a really good story. Yeah,
it is, and I think that they should do the exact same thing with the app marketplace. And
seed it.
Kleiner Perkins has 2 large funds now for iPhone apps, and one presumes iPad apps. Well, I think Google should be investing in the creation of killer apps.
AndroLib, I'm being told by the chat room. Pat says AndroLib, which is a independent Android app website, has 95,000 apps, so we're very close. Wait a minute, and the estimated number of apps downloaded, according to them, is 1 billion. So look at the graph. I mean, phenomenal growth. It's not a hockey stick, but it is not linear either. I mean, phenomenal growth over the last 3 months. The year begins kind of in the middle of the graph through July, and you're really seeing an uptick. Now, Google's added this new thing, which we can only trust others to tell us about because I haven't gotten my invitation. I guess you haven't either, Gina.
I haven't. Sad face.
Sad face to the, what is it, App Innovator? What is it?
It's the
App Inventor.
App Inventor, yes.
What is it?
It's a web-based visual Android application creation tool. So you go to this webpage. Once you get an invite, you can go request an invite. If you just Google App Inventor, you can request an invite, which I did.
And I did.
But
and Jeff did.
look, there's a YouTube video that kind of shows what it is, and it's actually a really cute video. But the idea is that it's it's what you see is what you get. App development for Android, right? It's just like a WYSIWYG editor, basically. You create a canvas, you can drop buttons onto it, you can assign actions to those buttons. So in the example, the user drops a photo of her cat onto the canvas and then a button that says purr, and when you press that button you can say play the purr sound or make the cat meow when you swipe across the image. Cute little app.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and it seems to be targeted towards educators. So they want to get young school kids building apps, and I think they said they had students as young as 6th grade making quizzes and question and answer type apps. And I think this is a great thing, right? I mean, some developers are complaining, or some people were saying this is just going to flood the Android market with crap apps that anybody could just slap together. But I have to tell you, as someone who's knee deep in building an Android app, kind of not the App Inventor way, doing it the old.
It's hard
Java
doing it
way,
the old way.
It's hard. It's much harder than it needs to be. And in fact, I think that Google could do a lot of work just in that. Here's download Eclipse, here's the SDK, build your app. So I really like the idea of making it easy, even just to do layout of buttons and boxes and tabs.
Could you use App Inventor as a starting point and then get back into the code, or is it kind of opaque at that point?
This is the problem. App Inventor does not generate source code that then you can modify. So this is my problem with it. I think it's
more
awesome.
like Mindstorms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that.
It's
like
pieces.
that. Yeah, so I wish that it generated the Java so that you could download then the code and then progress from there and work with the app, because everyone knows what happens when you get a WYSIWYG editor, right? Everyone started using Dreamweaver or whatever, starting creating web pages, and it would generate kind of crappy code. Who knows what kind of code this is creating? But I think this is only a good thing. You want to create interest. And right now, building a Hello World Android app, the old, the old school way,
Oh boy,
is too hard. It's too hard. So I'd like to see them improve in that area.
Gina
too.
buzzed it when she got the Hello World app running. She buzzed a screenshot.
It was like a big accomplishment.
It's like a big deal. And
It was, yeah.
And I've done it too. And really, the accomplishment is getting all the tools installed and working properly in your environment. But once you do that, I have to say that from a professional programmer looking at what Google's doing, many of them already use Eclipse. They certainly know Java. And I think it's a very nice application framework. I mean, I haven't looked under the hood to see how nicely put together it is, but it's a fairly complete framework, right? I mean,
it is. The framework is great, and I love Eclipse and have experience with Eclipse, having been a Java developer. But I'm a new mobile app developer, and even with Java experience and knowing Eclipse, I still, installing the SDK and going through all the steps, and it's a long ramp to the Hello World.
Yeah.
You want to shorten that ramp as much as possible to get people, because you get so excited when you see that Hello World work.
oh yeah,
And then you
what?
change it to Hello Gina, and you're like, yes, it's doing what I want it to do. Like, you want to make that path as short as possible for developers.
That's not so bad. It's the stuff after that then the ramp gets a little steep.
After that,
Yeah, and clearly this is the name for that. I think, Gina, I too heard kind of the priesthood of programmers, some of them objecting.
Well, I heard two different things. One is, yes, the pros not liking it. The other one is amateurs saying it's still too hard.
Well, yeah, you're going to be in that bind, but it's a step in the right direction. But to me, the use is, you're right, educational, number one. But number two, I think what's brilliant about this is that I can imagine a business using this to create their own app just for their Salesforce. Right?
Yes,
I can
that's
see Mark
interesting.
Benioff using this for Salesforce.com. And so what it does is it drives people to have to then be on Android. And I can't imagine Steve Jobs ever doing this. Because
no, in fact, this is, who did do this? Microsoft, in some ways. Microsoft Visual Basic really propelled business apps for Windows because it was so easy to code business apps for Windows. And I think that has a lot to do with maybe the adoption of Windows in business. You could create custom code.
There was a lot of reference to HyperCard. And
HyperCard,
said, oh, it disappeared. It was nothing. But then Kevin Marks came in Twitter and said, well, Tim Berners-Lee used it as inspiration in his
That's
white
right.
paper for the web. The founder of Wiki says that it also inspired him. And, I think that the more Gina's right, and Gina is always a generous Democrat here, lowercase d, in terms of inviting more people in, and the more people who use this stuff, the better it is for all of us. No question about it.
So you don't dismiss the notion that you're going to get a bunch of crappy more.
Of course you will. You get tons of crap, but that again amplifies the problem for Google is that you've got to curate the best of the stuff and find good stuff and create it.
Yeah.
But this is not for that. There's not going to be a million download app coming out of App Inventor. That's not what it's about.
When I applied for an invite, I applied as an educator because I am on the board of trustees of my kids' high school. They are adding Java. And I've been advising the instructor on Java curriculum, and I do very much think that the kids should, at least after they've studied Java a little bit, get a taste of mobile development, because isn't that the future of programming? Really?
And mobile development presents these challenges that you don't have to think about on the desktop. You're dealing with very little bandwidth, very little memory. You're dealing with someone with a very short attention span. I mean, if your tab doesn't, if your app doesn't respond to a tap, within 1 or 2 seconds, it feels broken, So you go back to this kind of minimalist sense of, with web apps, we're injecting jQuery. We've got all this really kind of heavy stuff going on because we've got these rich clients and these thick broadband connections. With mobile development, it's a whole different playing field. It's really interesting. You're presented with all these interesting limitations. You have to reduce the number of taps in order to get things done. It's really it's a fantastic. It got me really excited. I was like, oh, this is a new programming challenge. Something that I haven't had to.
As a journalism teacher, one of the fights that we have with our students here, I probably shouldn't say it that way, but some students say you should make me into a Flash programmer, and I keep on saying no, not only because it's Flash,
no,
but because I said you should be the boss of the Flash programmer. As a journalist, we're not going to be able to turn you into a great programmer here.
Yeah.
And what you need to be able to do is know how to spec. You need to know what it can do, and you need to spec it, and you need to be a project manager. Well, what it strikes me about it, I got to play with App Inventor, but it strikes me that it might be that step in the right direction to say, okay, you want to make something? Make a mobile app.
I can't wait to play with this. I'm very curious to. I mean, the trivial example that we just showed in the video that's on the page doesn't really inspire one to write an app. I mean,
no, not too much. But so if you look at on the App Inventor page, the tutorials page, they have some example apps, and so the Hello Purr, which is the pet the kitten and it purrs app, is at the top. But then there's some advanced app, which is a Quiz Me.
Yeah, Leo, you might want to go there.
Game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, trivia game about baseball.
Where's the bus? A bus schedule game, a bus schedule program.
Is there any way I can try this, or I guess you have to download it and try it? It looks like it looks like you can download and try it, but yeah, this is okay. I mean, if it's a quiz, and I could see huge benefits to a teacher to be able to develop their own mobile quizzes.
You can.
What I said on my blog post is we talk a lot about getting the electronic textbook. Screw that! I want the electronic workbook.
Yeah.
Okay,
now I'm going to say this is HyperCard. That is the power. That was the power of HyperCard. And a lot of educators. My dad used HyperCard to create a stack on Darwin that he used. He's not a programmer. He's not even a computer buff.
Yeah.
But it was very valuable to him. And so I think that is the closest analogy. This could be the HyperCard for mobile. That really puts some pressure to Apple. It really does.
Well,
Go
ahead, Gina.
I was going to say, I get email from non-programmers all the time who said, I'm not a programmer, but I want to build a mobile app. Where do I start?
Right.
And up until now, my answer has been, don't start with mobile app development, because you're either going to have to get into Objective-C with the iPhone, which is not easy. The iPhone IDE, I hear, is beautiful.
Yes,
and fun
gorgeous,
to use.
very powerful.
But you need to be a programmer to kind of start with
incidentally, they have an interface builder that is essentially like this, a drag and drop. You create the buttons, you create the interface, but you have to do the glue code. It's kind of like Visual Basic, too. You have to do the glue code or the button code to make it functional. Right, that handles
events and that kind of thing.
But, I mean, it's a nice interface, a developer.
And the Eclipse, the Android SDK has, there is a little bit of a visual component with the XML files. You can see the layout. I'm still kind of not sure of myself with it, but I feel like this is something I would advise. If someone's interested in building a mobile app, here's something that you can start with. So I think it's a good thing. I'm definitely not one of the. I think the market has to fill up with some bad apps in order to create the market for the really good apps. I was at Bar Camp last weekend, and there were a lot of Android phones there, and the conversations I was hearing about Android was, this task manager is pretty good, but I really like one that does this. And these are kind of the programmers that are going to identify the features or the things that are going to make the great apps, kind of given the groundwork of the bad apps. And I think that motivates developers to make the great apps, and then those will surface. And I think the Android market just has to fill out in order to create those opportunities and to kind of narrow them down so people will build them.
You're right. Democrat with lowercase d, Jeff. That's exactly right. No, that's exactly right.
Generosity. It's an openness.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, is there, and because I haven't been able to play with it yet, is there is it open sufficient that if I create a good module, can people create new modules for this and share modules they've created?
Do you know, Gina?
That's a very good question, and I'm not sure.
They say, on the front page, Google engineers have created modules to do everything.
What I really want is for Gina to be able to program new modules that then dorks like me can actually put into something. Because that would be the better use of your talents, Gina, and the better use of my, enthusiasm, shall we say.
Yeah, I mean, letting anyone contribute building blocks would be fantastic. I mean, this is kind of Google's philosophy, right? I mean, they do generally let them do this. So, but I don't know if that's possible now. I don't believe so. It's
based on open blocks, which is
they were great in the post were saying that they were built on the shoulders of giants.
Yes. It uses OpenBlocks Java library for creating Visual Blocks programming sources. OpenBlocks is an MIT project. So maybe it depends on how much it uses OpenBlocks.
Oh, that's a good point. Could it just use stuff from scratch?
Yeah. The compiler that translates the Visual Blocks language for implementation on Android uses the Kawa language framework. Kawa is a dialect of Scheme. Wow. Wow.
I don't even know what that is.
Scheme is a Lisp variant.
Oh, okay.
So you see the MIT open roots here. Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
So how do you see this competitively with Apple?
I think it puts Apple on the spot. I think Apple, but I would never imagine Apple, they can't do anything like this because it would flood them with things to approve.
It's a back door into the App Store, or it's a non-App Store app repository.
It's kind of a sad commentary on Apple that, in fact, if they wanted to do a HyperCard for iPhone, they really couldn't.
Right.
That really isn't an option. And smart of Google perhaps to recognize that and say, okay, we'll do it. I'm feeling right now. I've been using the iPhone since it came out solely. I sit and I look at my Nexus 1 on the shelf there. But and I have to say I've dropped 5 calls in the last 2 days, even with a case on the thing. I'm about to throw this thing through the window. I love so many things about it, but if it drops calls, I can't use it. So I'm very interested. Droid X comes out this week. That's the Verizon Motorola sequel to the Droid. Actually, there's a Droid 2, which is a direct sequel. Droid X is much more like an Evo with a 4.3-inch screen.
I've touched it. I've held it.
What do you think?
Very nice. Very nice.
It's the Hummer of phones. That's what I'm calling it.
Yeah, it's larger, but that's fine with me because I got big geeky hands, and it's all right. But I like it. The problem, I guess, my only problem with it is, well, besides the issue that you and I always talk about GSM versus CDMA.
Right.
But if I'm going to have 2 phones anyway, then I think I'd probably get the X. Except I want the forward-facing camera. I think.
Well, who are you going to call?
Well, that's true, but I just was knowing what it can do. I think did you all watch? I blogged about this. The commercials that Apple did for what's it called? FaceTime.
FaceTime.
Oh, the new commercials. I haven't seen the new ones.
It really struck me. I have them all on my blog. It struck me as odd because it was almost tragic. It's because at the end of these videos, you want them to be able to touch, but they can't. And yes, it's more intimate than a phone call, but that's what makes this evident about how it's still not. And there was something kind of sad about it to me. It was wacky, but it makes me wonder that video online has been solely about broadcasting to the whole world, and now in an instant, video became incredibly intimate.
Yeah. So this is 2 people looking.
Smile now. And now. I can't believe you're never going to smile.
It's a guy trying to get somebody to smile.
All right, you're going to make me sing. Shannon's never going to smile. She's going to go. Hey. No, come on. They look good.
That's your father, obviously.
How do they feel?
Shannon has braces.
Yeah.
Kind of weird.
Well, you look beautiful.
Okay, that's pretty touching. But you're right. He's not there, Dad.
Right.
Dad's not there.
in each one of these, even though it brought them closer, it only emphasized how the last mile is still there.
I guess we live in a world where we are so desperate to connect, and we are so far away now that this is it. This is. Wait a minute. Where are you, Jeff? Gina, I can't.
Right.
I can't. Oh, I can't.
Let's all touch.
You're so far. Well, maybe this is is this the world we live in now, where we don't?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is Leo, I think that
It's kind of depressing.
It is kind of depressing.
The fact that this thing is different in some big ways, I still gotta play with that. I still gotta understand that, whether it's through Apple or whether it's through front-facing camera. But I think the front-facing camera kind of matters. Yeah, one of the other videos, the woman getting a sonogram. Obviously, she's pregnant, and she switches the camera from her face to the sonogram screen to back, right? And there's something new happening there.
Yeah.
That was the killer for me. That one is the one that really got me.
All right, which one is that? I have to play
It's
it.
the last one with the baby. Oh no, it's not.
On my blog, it's the 4th or the 5th, I think.
4th or the 5th.
It's not the guy with the beard.
2, 3.
And it's not the hair you just played.
All right, I think it is here. Big news? I think that's it. All right.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, get ready. Free ad for Apple.
No, that's not it.
Hey, what's going on, sweetie?
That's not it. She just
No,
got
that's not it.
She just got a haircut.
Same topic. Go back because there's another one.
Haircut. Meet her.
No,
I don't think you have it embedded here.
Well, I don't have it on this one. Jeez, that's weird.
Huh. Okay.
Was it in the omnibus one, Gina, where there was a whole bunch of people doing different things?
The one I was thinking of, the soldier was, sitting on his bunk, presumably, in Afghanistan or whatever, and talking to his wife, which just made me sad about the war. Like I was like totally
Exactly that too.
I was just all filled up and like, oh.
Yeah. Well, this is good advertising is emotional, so it's good advertising.
That was what TechCrunch was saying, that it's very mad.
It says MG Siegler writes, it's as if Apple had hired Don Draper.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, they don't. They don't have to hire Don Draper. This is what every ad agency in the world is hoping for, and FaceTime lends itself to that. Ironically, I'm sorry, I don't think it's a technology that's going to take off. I just think it's not.
Really?
It's Wi-Fi only. It's
well, that's true, but
iPhone
but is that
4
gonna be the
only.
case? Isn't there a front-facing camera phone?
The
on
Evo
Android?
has it. I've got Anna Ravenscroft sitting in here. She's a big fan. Do you ever use the front-facing phone? Not yet, she says. That's the problem. They've been front-facing cameras on Nokia phones for years.
You can take a really good self-portrait.
Yeah, that's what it's mostly.
You can check your makeup.
MySpace page.
I've done, I did a few FaceTime calls to people like Robert Scoble, and I haven't done anything since.
Well, Leo, that says it all.
Yeah, if that's who
I
I'm
don't turn you
calling,
off from doing it.
exactly. What's the, oh, good. I have to call Robert more. So, I mean, and I'll be honest, I'm not proselytizing that my friends and family, you'd think, okay, I got an iPhone 4. Wouldn't I want to talk my friends and family into getting an iPhone 4 so I could FaceTime them? And I can't. No, of course not.
So you're really going away from the iPhone here, man. You are
have a
throwing
feeling.
it over.
So wait, even when Abby goes to college,
I asked her. You know what's funny? I said, you'll appreciate this, Jeff. I said, Abby, could you get I actually have an iPhone 4 in the box sitting that came a couple of days ago. It was going to be for Abby, and she says, I said, then we could FaceTime you, and that's the last thing she wants to do, by the way. then we could FaceTime you, and here's the weird.
You? I can see you.
She said, Dad, you have to decide: are we rich or are we poor? Because if we're rich, then if I carry an iPhone, it's a statement, and then I have to spend at that level. But if we're not rich, I want a cheap old feature phone because I don't want to get in the position where I have to keep up with my phone.
Wow.
She's strange that way.
I know. I love that. She's basically saying, Dad, you want to FaceTime me? Then you're going to have to up my allowance.
I think that's where she was going with that. You're right. It's going to cost you, Dad.
It's going to cost you.
Yeah, I'll carry an iPhone, but it's going to cost you. Is it?
No Loblonics aren't far behind. It's the entry drum.
Oh, you're right. Oh, you're right. You don't have that problem with Jeff, I hope.
No.
I mean, Jake. So,
he has expensive tastes in gadgets.
yeah, of course he does.
Yeah, he's like you. He wants all the latest.
So she's going to a hipster school, and she says all the people will have iPhones. And I actually said, you know what? If it's really a hipster school, all the people will have Android phones. And actually, if it's a really, really hipster school, they'll all have old Nokia candy bar phones, retro phones, right? That's really the hip. I don't know,
Yeah,
Gina.
these are different flavors of hipster.
When you go to New York City and you go down like to the meatpacking quarter to the clubs, what phone are they carrying?
Jeff?
That was for you, Gina. That was for you.
I can tell you, I guarantee you they're not FaceTiming each other. That would be so uncool, right?
Well, the fear is this is only going to make it a lot easier to do chat roulette.
By the way, there is this is something not on the yet on Android, although with this new Android Inventor probably just a few minutes away, there is a chat roulette clone for the iPhone called iChatter that I tried and regretted immediately.
Was there
It uses FaceTime.
the things we expect that are there?
Mm-hmm. You want me to try it again?
Sure.
No. I think
I saw a presentation when I was in Berlin. Somebody did this with chat roulette on the huge screen, and she tried to get one of the guys to show themselves. I mean, show their face, and it was hilarious. As soon as they realized, even though there was no face there, as soon as they realized that a huge audience was watching them do this, suddenly, boom, they went off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, you get that anyway. You get this, there's this chat roulette rejection thing, which actually is very depressing if you're a guy on chat roulette, because it's boom, boom, boom. They're not looking for guys. They're looking for young women they can scare. And so it's boom, 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 boom. In fact, there's a great video on YouTube of a guy who did an experiment. He demonstrated this. He sat in front of it, rejection after rejection. Then he got his girlfriend to sit in front of it. Nice long conversations.
Of course.
So what I'm holding out for is because I have an Nexus One on T-Mobile, I'm gonna get this Galaxy S for T-Mobile is going to be called the Vibrant. They're going to be on every carrier, but it's 4 inches, so it's kind of in between the Nexus One and the honkin' big Evo or Droid X. It's very thin and it's got a AMOLED screen. It's actually a Samsung screen. No flash. Anyway, I'll give you an objective.
I know you're going T-Mobile because you already have the SIM, but my T-Mobile I love their model.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they're unlimited. I love the fact that it's month to month, but the coverage is awful for me in New York.
Well, this is telling. They're better in the Bay Area than AT&T.
Well, that's their big opportunity, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I run into there are certain places in town here that I don't get a good signal. Actually, at bar camp, I didn't get a great signal, and everyone with their iPhones was like, the Wi-Fi was down, and everyone with their with their iPhone said, "Oh, well, can't you just do the portable hotspot thing?" And I said, "I don't have any coverage here."
That's true. What good is a portable hotspot if you don't have 3G?
Right, if you don't have any coverage. I want to see Apple's commercial for video phone sex. Like, how are they going to make that emotional?
Steve is saving us from sex, Gina.
Right. There's no porno in the world.
Right.
There's
No
sex
porn
in
happens.
Steve's world.
Right. You're right. You're right.
It's not, by the way, my direct experience of Steve, but I'll leave it at that. Maybe sometime over drinks, I'll tell you the story.
Ah.
The magic you made together.
Not me. No. I spent this was before he went to Apple. It was I've told this story before. He was still at Next. I spent a long weekend with him, his young wife, and their kids. Now leave the rest to your imagination. So, no, they're shaking their heads at me. I don't know what they mean by that. Let's take a break and come back. You can think. We have many more things to talk about. A new acquisition. Actually, I'm sorry, an acquisition that Google made some months ago comes to life on Picasa. We'll talk about Facebook and a lot more as we continue. This Week in Google, Leo Laporte here. The show brought to you, as always, by our friends at Citrix, who want to remind you about GoToMeeting. This is another one of those great Citrix products that built around their remote access software that saves you time, saves you money, saves you business travel in this case. I know many of us have spent time in business meetings, conference calls, where, you're just thinking, this is the end of the world. Or worse, you're stuck in the middle seat flying somewhere for a 1-hour meeting thinking, why? Why are we doing this? American Express says the average cost of a business trip these days, and they ought to know since they do a lot of expense meals, is $1,000 for one trip. That's airfare, hotel, meals, all of that. GoToMeeting, less than 5% of it, $49 a month, and you can have all the meetings you want. online. And it's so much better than a conference call because it's visual. In fact, I would argue it's as effective as an in-person meeting, maybe even more so. Everyone sees your desktop on their computer screen. You can meet with up to 15 people at the same time, trade around the desktop so they can show you something and then you show them something. Includes voice over IP and phone conferencing. That's part of the $49 a month, and it's absolutely secure, 128-bit SSL. Citrix knows how to do this stuff right. Makes it easy to install, easy to invite people, and very easy for your attendees to join your meeting. That's important. If you're going to do a sales pitch, you can't have the client jumping through hoops. You're trying to convince the client to spend some money with you. In fact, GoToMeeting impresses them. It's so easy. Here's what you do. Visit the site right now, gotomeeting.com/twig, T-W-I-G. You'll have it installed in a minute or two. The next time you want to have a conference call, or worse, plan to get in a plane, just send an invitation. Say, let's have a meeting online first, see how this works. You can even do it while you're on a boring conference call. Just say, please, do me a favor, gotomeeting.com. Here's the meeting ID. Let me show you the PowerPoint, the keynote presentation. It's so fantastic. Based on Java, by the way. gotomeeting.com/twig. Give it a try for free for the next 30 days, and then you tell me what you think. gotomeeting.com/twig. We thank them so much for their support of This Week in Google. Apple's Senior Vice President, Scott Forstall, creates a Twitter account. And it's news. Has he tweeted yet? I don't think so. But the point is that most of the time, I don't think you ever see any Apple executives on Twitter. Do you ever see any Google executives on Twitter? There's a lot of Googlers on Twitter.
Yeah, you see Marissa's there.
Is she? Does she tweet?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
And she responds to folks. She's actually quite responsive.
Really?
What is Forstall's username?
Let me see if I can find it here. This is a TechCrunch article. Just signed up for Twitter. Nothing. He hasn't posted diddly. Get short, timely messages from Scott Forstall.
Oh, he's just Forstall.
It's Forstall. It's his last name. That's easy. Verified account. Twitter says, yes, it's him. I don't know how they know. He hasn't tweeted. He's following one person, Conan O'Brien.
This looks like a defensive, I don't want anybody to fake Steve me account.
Oh, maybe that's it.
Yeah, right? I mean...
Wishful thinking, Scott. Nobody's going to fake Forstall. Really, seriously.
But, I mean, to sign up and just make it a verified account and not post anything, that looks like a defensive move.
25,000 people following him.
That's crazy. Well, because TechCrunch reported it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure probably
What is the sound of one hand tweeting? Nothing. Dead silence. All right. That was a stinky story. I apologize. I'll find a better one for you. Microsoft is going to release a Bing search client for Android in the next 6 weeks, according to PC World magazine. Have you been waiting for this with bated breath? Actually, the Bing app is pretty good on the iPhone. I don't use it, but...
Henry Blodgett at Business Insider, a very good New York...
I love Henry Blodgett, yeah.
So Henry said that Bing came after him and made him eat crow because Bing is growing. And so he noshed on the crow and chunked a few bones. And then he said, it's still my
stinks.
opinion of Bing is the same. No, because he said that if you look at the numbers, they're making no money. They're spending every dollar in advertising to buy traffic.
Right.
And that's not sustainable.
7% growth, but it cost them.
Right.
This is an interesting one. Apple, this just came across the wire. Apple has just acquired a second mapping service, Poly9. They make 3D mapping software that looks a lot like Google Earth, using satellite imagery, aerial photography, and geographic information, a virtual atlas. You might remember that a year ago, Apple purchased PlaySpace, which is more like a Google Maps type product. We haven't seen them use either product on the iPhone, but it's interesting. Do you think Apple...
trying to divorce themselves from Google Maps a little
would like
bit?
to dump Google Maps? I mean, they put Bing on the iPhone.
Possibly.
Maps are going to be the winner at local. And Maps are going to be the primary UI, I think, to get you to local stuff.
That's where the money is.
Yeah.
Would you... Okay, that's interesting. So when you want local, the first place you go is Maps.
Well, no. I think it.
You don't go to Yelp.
No, I went to a restaurant today with my editor and agent. Isn't that cool? We talked about you, Gina. And
Is that not a conflict of interest? Your editor is your agent?
No, two different people.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Gina, you were confused too? Oh, good. I
was.
I was going, oh, I'm kind of stupid when I thought you said one person. Okay, your editor.
There was no hyphen there. My editor and
your agent.
I looked at the restaurant beforehand because my trick now is that I look at the menu before I get there so I don't have to, stare down and be rude. How's that for neurotic? Anyway, so I looked them up on Google, and the first link to me is not a link to their site, but is a Google Place page. And from there, I go to the map. And when I'm out of town and I say, where should I eat? I use maps to find out what's around me. That's the data where the winning.
So that's interesting. So you start with Google, but the link you get is a map.
The link I get is the place page. The place page is a map. And, or if I'm out and I say, well, gee, where am I going to eat? I'm in a strange motel. I go to the maps in that case. And
really? Say what's around me.
Restaurants. Yeah.
So that actually makes sense. You start the starting point is Google, which makes it hard for Apple to get into this business. The starting point's never going to be Apple.
But if my phone says, here's where you are, what do you want around you? Then, having their own map app is important, I think.
How about you, Gina? Where do you start if you want location-based information?
I've been really into Foursquare lately, so I would probably hit Foursquare. I should also say that I am a woman of routine, so I'm often not in a situation where I'm in a strange city where I don't know where to go. So that doesn't happen too often. I travel between San Diego and New York, and I have my favorite places. But I will often look at Foursquare just to see kind of what's around me and where my friends are. But
Foursquare is interesting, but of course that's their play.
You were non-Foursquare only a few weeks ago, Gina.
I know. I did a total 180 on Foursquare. I really like it now. I like it a lot, actually. And now several of my friends who live around here use it as well. So I get that kind of feeling of like, oh, so and so went to go see that movie. That kind of thing. Kind of get that ambient.
That's an important addition to search. We've been talking a lot about over the last months. Which is, so Jeff, you're using raw search, but what Gina wants is a social graph applied to that.
Yeah.
Around locale at some point.
Yeah, and that's, so it's really not locale by itself or search by itself. It's social graph as it applies to search or locale or both.
With the relevance signal to you that, I know I'm your phone, I know where you are.
Right.
That's very interesting.
More relevant signals is where the winning really comes in, and that's where social and geo really matter together.
And this is where, frankly, Apple is not a player because they're not a strong web presence. But Facebook and Google and companies that really live on the web, they're players. You can't just say, I'm going to be a player in this space and buy a bunch of companies. You need to have people using you on the web.
I think so.
Right? So it makes it very difficult.
I bought a new machine. I bought a new 13-inch Mac, and I switched over, and I haven't put all my data in there yet. So my RSS reader, I haven't been using. So I actually just switched to Google Reader.
Yeah, I have too.
And I just finally used pin tabs. I'm behind. But
wait a minute. You better tell us what's pin tabs.
On Chrome, you can pin a tab.
Oh, okay.
So it's always there, right? So I don't have this problem where I was always closing them accidentally or I had to move them around or all kinds of crap. And Gina told me to do this 3 years ago.
I got to talk to Gina more.
Yeah.
So how do I pin this tab?
Yeah, I'm looking at my Mac and I don't.
In Chrome, you go to the tab and you control click on it.
There it is.
Oh, control click on it.
And pin tab, so that it's always there. It's beautiful.
Pin tab. So now Buzz Machine will always be right there.
As well it should be, Leo.
Damn,
it should
be.
And it shrinks it down to the fave icon, which is my favorite. I love that.
Right. But you know what, Jeff, you got to work on your fave icon.
I know.
What the hell is that? It looks like a piece of paper.
Well, I'm always a blank slate of paper. It's symbolic, you see.
It's symbolic. He's a blank sheet. Oh, that's handy. Okay, so I'm sorry, I derailed you.
So I'm going more and more away from apps to straight web stuff, and it does work.
I have to say that's news reading is a very good example of that. I've tried every news reader under the sun, and I end up back on reader.google.com every time.
Yeah. It works.
Reader is awesome.
But partly because it doesn't have to load. I mean, a lot of these apps, they're going, okay, hold on, let me go out and get the latest headlines, blah, 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 blah. And,
well, the only other thing is because I never used it, I have some 1,000 people following me and they're getting nothing. And now RSS just became social for me too, which it wasn't before.
No, I have to say, and also Reader has really improved its front page. So there's actually some useful stuff right at the beginning. I like the What's Hot in Google Reader feed, which is a feed of its own. And then you're right. It's again, this is social applied to news.
So now go back to your question, Leo. I'm not sure where we stand now on is Apple in a worse position with maps and apps versus web? On mobile, it's different.
Right. You can't. You're not going to go to.
On mobile, I do use Reader. I'm not going to use a web page based app.
You're not.
No. Do you?
No.
Gina, how often do you ever open the browser?
On my phone?
On your Android.
Oh, I use the. I shouldn't.
Not that often. I mean,
Really?
I normally start from the search widget on the front page if I need to look something up on Google, and I load Think Tank to check on it. But no, mostly I use apps. You're right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So-
That's a difference, Leo, I think.
This is
right?
what's changing.
Right. So if Apple has best signals into its own map app and its large installed user base and its own advertising, now does it have to kill Google Maps to do that? No, I don't think it does. I think it just advantages themselves.
So this is why Apple's strong interest is closed, really, because that's the ecosystem that they survive in. Open is a bad ecosystem for Apple because they can't compete against Google.
Right.
So really, this is probably the force that's pushing Apple away. I mean, I think hereditarily Apple would prefer to be open. I don't know about Steve, but Apple had been open. And I think what's happening is they see they cannot come. This probably is the Google effect on Apple.
Well, and go back to the HyperCard thing, right? Apple always was a tool that enabled people to create. Well, now when you get to the most important thing to create, apps, Apple says, no, 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 no. You can't do that because you might make crap and you might make porn.
Right.
And you can't do that.
Right.
So that's what goes away from the Apple DNA, I think. Apple was always the great creator's tool, and now it's not. It's a consumption tool, which is the problem I had with the iPad. It was consumption more than creation.
Mine
The phone
exactly. Yes. And I've come around to your way of thinking, actually.
Well, you are really having a bad Apple day.
You are. I was just going to ask about the iPad and how much
I like the iPad, and I love it. Just as you love candy. It's not good for you, but you might love it. It really is candy. And, you know, I actually had this debate at Food Camp with, I'm embarrassed to say, the guy who created the Popular Science app, which is a kind of a really good example, because here's a beautiful application. Exactly what the publishers, and you've talked about this, Jeff, prefer. The links are inward. They don't take you out there. There's no link economy. We control the space. You're reading our stuff. And I found it unreadable. It was beautiful, but I couldn't read the content. It was like, no, this isn't what I want. And I realized that Jeff was right all along. What I really want is a web page with links in it. You're right. Oh, I get. And I told him that. I said, I think I probably used your word, regressive. This is a step backwards.
Yeah, I think so.
In the open link economy. I still love the iPad, but you know the iPad's got a browser. You could still use the browser. It's not like you don't.
You're more likely to use the browser there than you are on the phone.
Yes, that's true.
The phone, the browser just isn't that good. So, so that you're right. That's where we see the split: is the app world and the closed world versus the web world. Now, then is Google at a disadvantage because its apps, though it may be getting many of them, are not as good, and it's thinking in terms of Chrome, in terms of browser-based applications, and we don't go to the browser.
The truth is, I'm looking at Reader on the iPad, and it's a very capable in the browser. It's very capable. It does kind of the same things that it would do on a desktop. For the iPad, anyway, it's fine. It's just too small for the phone. The phone. This is really interesting. Apple's interest is in keeping this display small. Because that's that's another thing you need for apps to succeed. You need a constrained environment.
Right.
Not in their interest to have a nice big display on this thing.
No.
In fact, that's exactly what they did. They said, well, we'll keep it small. We'll just make it higher resolution, make it look pretty. But we're not going to make it big because, well, that's the iPad for one thing. But also it kind of obviates our advantage with apps. Very interesting. I love this show because I learned something. every time. Tom Formsky, this just came out also, writing, and thanks to the chat room for pointing this out, writing on ZDNet says, and this is from an article in the Financial Times that requires subscription behind the paywall, so I ain't reading it, but I'll read Tom's article on this. Google admits employees change index ratings. Companies with a high page rank are in a strong position to move into new markets. By pointing to this new information from their existing sites, they can pass on some of their existing search engine aura, Google juice, to use Robert Scoble's term, guaranteeing them more prominence. Google's Mr. Singhal calls this problem the problem of brand recognition, where companies whose standing is based on their success in one area use this to venture out into another class of information which they may not be rich at. That, of course, is how the market works, too. I mean, a company like Apple becomes strong in one area, uses its success in that area to branch into other areas. Google doesn't like that, so they use human raters to assess the quality of individual sites in order to counter this effect.
They've been saying that for quite a long time.
Really?
They've acknowledged having human. I've heard them say it. They've acknowledged having human raters to rate the quality of search results.
These employees have the power to promote or even completely erase a site from the Google index. Well, we knew that because, of course, if you game Google, you'll get erased as well.
I always thought, though, that the humans who do things at Google, shocking that there are humans that can do things, that they don't necessarily demote individual sites, but that they make observations to help tweak the algorithm overall. This sounds like there are editors who are
They're
saying
looking at sites and saying, no, that's not it. That's not good.
Right.
We're gonna rank you lower.
Yeah. I mean, I always understood that it was always just about tweaking the algorithm. But this sounds more editorial.
When they still say that, in essence, oh, this was a fail. This shouldn't be there, so I'm going to tell the algorithm, no, you shouldn't have put that there because that was a fail.
So
but there's a difference between,
difference between killing and promoting.
But there's also a difference between a site-by-site modification and a modification in the algorithm. So Larry Page always said this. He told me, he says, I go to the end. I go to the end of the search results, and I look at the stuff that falls off the edge, and we tweak the algorithm for that. Of course they do that. This is different. This is a guy looking at a site and saying, no. That's not fixing the algorithm. That's saying the algorithm gave me the wrong result.
The algorithm is learning from that and saying,
Right. Like when you report spam, right? You say, get this email out of my inbox.
Yeah, Matt does that, right? Matt Cutts does that. He says, okay, here, this is clearly a spammy site. They probably respond directly to that site as well as saying to the algorithm, maybe you better fix this part.
Right.
I mean, I'm always Google fanboy, but I don't know what they're treating this as some big scandal. Google has employees. Of course, you have to deal with the results of the algorithm to make the algorithm better.
Now, Scott Cleland is saying that this is the first time Google has admitted this.
Well, there's some fine point here that I'm missing, but I have heard it from Googlers' mouths that they have people who check. In fact, I think we talked about it on the show a long time ago.
Jeff, maybe you knew something no one else knew.
God knows.
So today, Google, this is a reading from Scott Cleland's blog, the Precursor blog. Today, Google publicly admitted for the first time that its purported neutral and unbiased search algorithm is not completely automated or computer algorithmic. Amit Singhal is the guy there. I met Amit. Mr. Singhal calls the problem of brand recognition. Well, we talked about this. And then this from Google's website, he quotes, 10 things we know to be true. We never manipulate rankings to put our partners higher in our search results, and no one can buy better page rank. Well, that's not, this isn't.
Right, that's not this.
That's not that. Our users trust our objectivity. No, I don't think that counters
Cleland
that.
has a thing for Google and is constantly sending out emails every day.
Okay.
Complaining about them. Okay. Listen, they may be right. I don't know. This may be manipulation of a higher form than I'm aware of. All I'm suggesting here is that they've always had humans doing quality checks on search results, and as a result, that affects sites. They've also always had humans decreeing spam.
So here's he does raise this point, which I think is legitimate to raise. Okay, so there is somebody making these decisions, and there are antitrust suits filed over it. Antitrust authorities, he said, should want to know how these human raters maintain objectivity and what internal controls are in place for this human process not to be abused. That's reasonable.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think the real problem Google's had, and I've said it on this show, is that they are godlike there. They have Google argues that normally they have an open marketplace of advertising and, hey, succeed or fail based on the quality of your ad and the clicks and the price of those ads. That's not true when it comes to deciding that a site is spam.
Right.
So when they've gotten suits, it's from a site that says, no, I'm a directory, not a spam site.
How dare you?
And there's a difference there. So, sorry, I just had something weird on my computer. So when Google says, no, you're spam, they are godlike saying that. And I have argued for a long time, and no one listens, that Google should have a jury of peers.
Right.
It's in no one's interest to have bad search results and have crap come up.
At the very least, Google needs to be less opaque about this, more transparent about this, because it's a black box right now. You just, the index goes in, sites go in, and
but the argument there is you find out the tricks, you'll only be better at gaming it. But I think it's in these cases of dispute, rather than having Google employees adjudicate them and get themselves in this trouble because they're just so damn big. I think if you had 10 generally trusted business people able to review this and say anonymous, I mean, identity hidden so they can't be bribed, but to say, no, Google, you're wrong on that one. That one looks okay to me. And if enough agree, then it stays up.
This is an interesting. Of course, it's completely meaningless if it's Bing. It's much more meaningful because it's Google, and they have so much power.
They're vulnerable to accusations of antitrust just from the power.
Right.
So the way to get around this monopoly accusation is to say, yeah, we're huge, but you're right, Leo. We are as transparent as we can be wherever it is. A, B, the marketplace handles these decisions. We don't. And C, when there are disputes, here is our dispute resolution mechanism, so there can be no complaints.
Right.
So you may complain still, but sorry, this is the way it works.
Right.
I also think that it's kind of a false. We shouldn't differentiate between it's the algorithm, so it's good, or it's humans and it's potentially bad. I mean, humans created the algorithm, right? The algorithm is just a conglomeration of human judgments over time, right? That the computers have just been programmed to make automatically. So I mean, I think that it's reasonable.
Gina, I think you're right. I think the algorithm is a statement of prejudices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, the algorithm is just automated human judgment. Human judgment automated.
That's good.
Lots of it
You're saying
over time,
that
right?
it requires a programmer to say this, because those of us who are not programmers think that there's something completely objective and magical about this, and it's math. There's no humans involved. It's math.
Yeah, no, there's yes.
It's an expression of a human intent.
Yes, exactly. The algorithm is an expression of the engineers, for sure.
Very good point. Very good.
Well, it's David Weinberger who always says brilliant things, but he does a great spiel about Dewey Decimal System and how Mr. Dewey had his prejudices, and they are evident in the system. There's like 100 numbers for Christianity and 2 for Judaism and 1 for everything else. And the system brings forward the prejudices. And I think I've never seen studies done about trying to back into search and algorithmic things like that to try to suss out what are those judgments? How can you learn the judgments from what it does and recognize the prejudices it then naturally has?
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Just circle around to our conversation about mobile versus the web. Steve Rebell, writing in Ad Age, writes an interesting article called "It's Time to Prepare for the End of the Web as We Know It." He quotes a Morgan Stanley report that says within 5 years, global internet consumption on mobile devices will surpass that activity on PCs. We're clearly seeing that trend. We're away from PCs and towards mobile.
But what's a mobile device, right?
Well, the iPad,
is your
iPhone.
iPad a mobile device?
Yeah.
Is your 5-inch Dell thing a mobile device? Is your car a mobile device, or is it a whole new kind of device? I think that's the problem with this discussion of declaring things dead, is that it doesn't recognize that there's new definitions of these
There's
things.
a continuum, but I think that even on even something as big as an iPad, it's not the same as a notebook, and it is a different experience. But certainly on a phone.
Leo, it was the same thing when we switched from desktops to notebooks. Right? We're there now.
Yeah, you're
We've
right.
already done it.
Yeah.
Right? And so was that really such a big deal?
Well,
Did we not put it on our lap?
Don't these small devices, as we were talking about earlier, favor apps over the web?
Yes, that's true. That's
so,
true.
So really, that's the trend. There is it's a continuum.
But we're also going to go to things like voice commands more. And we may do that with our laptops and our desktops too. All I'm trying to say is that I think Steve's wonderful and I love the guy, but this kind of declaration of something dying is usually suspect.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I guess what he's trying to say to the readers of Advertising Age is, how do you change how you think about marketing and media too? I guess, given what is a clear trend.
Let me ask you both, Gina. Compared today to a year or two ago, there was a time when you had to get your email 100% on your computer. What percentage of time do you do email checking now on a mobile device instead of a computer?
Oh, a lot more.
Yeah,
a lot more.
all the time.
I deal with email like in the spaces when I'm standing in line and in the car, way more. So percentage of time. I mean, God, I have to say 60 or 70% of the time I'm checking email, responding email, processing email on my mobile device for sure. I'm a very heavy email user on Android. It's the only way I can stay on top of it is using that kind of extra few minutes I have, standing in line somewhere. For sure.
I check, but I don't write.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
So I'll check it and delete it, or maybe process it, but I don't like to. It's hard to write on these things, so I don't respond a lot.
Or I do
my one-liners.
Yeah, one-liners.
Yep.
And in fact, I think this is hurting my email because I kind of now feel like, well, I've looked at it, but I haven't really looked at it. Yeah. So in a way,
so 3 weeks later, somebody says hello. And you think,
you say I saw it. I meant to respond, but I wasn't at my desk.
Actually, I thought it was so important. I looked at it on my mobile, but then as a result, I didn't do anything.
You need a good email productivity system, Leo. We should talk about that.
Do you have one?
I mean, yeah,
I'll buy
I definitely do. I have a follow-up folder that I label stuff follow-up, and when I get back to my computer and I have the full screen and stuff, I go to it.
For the longest time, I've wanted to do a show with you and Merlin just on this, on productivity. Let's just please help me. But I'm also kind of thinking that I don't think there's any solution to this. So maybe
I don't think there's any. Here's one of the tricks I do. I put. Is this going to show here?
What is it?
I put.
It looks like your stomach.
Oh, sorry. I put post-it notes.
No, now it's your crotch. Okay.
We talk about that too much. I put post-it notes on the laptop, thinking, well, I can go back and I can write down old notes there. It doesn't work. I have notes here.
Post-it notes. You are so retro.
I'm one of these inbox zero freaks.
Are you? You still are?
Yeah, I empty my so when I'm looking at my email kind of on the go, I empty it out and put the stuff I need to do something about and follow up, archive, delete the rest.
How many years since you've had an empty email box, Leo?
Never.
I'm super anal freak though, so I'm not a good.
Gina, what you have to do is hypnotize both of us. That's the only thing that's going to change us.
Oh, I only have. Let me see. I'll just check on my inbox right now. Looks like I have 52,988 messages, 6,905 unread. So I'm kind of screwed.
That hurts me.
How could I get to zero from that, Gina?
Select all.
And
archive.
Delete? Wait a minute, but look carefully. I think there's something from Gina Trapani in there.
There is. I see my name in there.
I don't know.
Of course, Gmail changed our habits there.
Because we kept everything now.
Yeah, which is good, which I like. But it means there's no such thing as an empty mailbox. For us, normal people, Gina.
I have to differentiate between the stuff that I have to do something about and the stuff that I don't. And that's the key differentiator for me.
Yeah, I just wait. I have Leo's rule. I wait till they come back to me 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's definitely one way to do it. You can certainly trust that the important stuff will bubble up again, for sure. No, I mean, that works. It might annoy the people that you
but we have to do it because there's no hope.
To quote Dave Allen, I do not have a mind like water.
You have a mind like...
I have a mind like, I don't know what, like a turbulent pool. I did. In fact, I'm very interested in how to solve this. You know what? I recently took off. I had an autoresponder on there. Which would just basically say, hey, I got your mail, but don't expect anything. And, I mean, it was more elaborate, but that was the gist of it. And I took that off because then people I know were saying, well, I keep getting this responder. Are you seeing
Yeah.
your mail? It's like, well, yes, can't you read? It says, I got your mail. I get a lot of mail. I'll read it, but I may not respond to you. But they don't get that. They'd say, it was automatic. So now I just turn it off and said, screw you. It's an empty hole. Just send the black hole of Leo's email. Just send it. Maybe I'll get back to you. I don't know. I don't know what to do.
I've declared email bankruptcy. Now I've declared life bankruptcy.
Do I have an obligation? Just because somebody emailed me, do I have an obligation to them?
No, you do not.
Otherwise, I'm opening myself up to the world, and I have obligations to too many people.
I had a guy yesterday who yelled at me. He God bless him. They had a discussion about my book, and they wrote this little thing, and I wrote back immediately. I said, "Thank you very much. I looked at this with interest," which I actually did.
Yeah.
And he started yelling at me. Well, you only spent 3 seconds on this.
Oh, jeez.
And I just went after him, and I said, I got other things in life, man. I got kids.
Totally. And let me just be clear. Just because I have an empty inbox does not mean that I reply to everyone. I mean, I'm pretty ruthless about there's a lot of people I don't reply to.
So what do you
but,
do?
know,
You
the,
just
the
delete.
person who's offering me money for a job that I want to do, I want to get back to them or whatever. I just because someone emails you doesn't mean you.
No. And the truth is, I don't have a problem deleting email. My problem is I get a lot of email that is people offering me money. So I can't even respond to that. It's like I get a lot of email that I would, in a normal world, I would respond to. But we have created so many inputs for ourselves and so many ways that people can get their hands into our minds. I don't know what to do.
We don't have new social norms.
We don't
established yet. That's I think the bigger problem here. Sorry, my light just went out. I'm dead. Back to life. We don't have norms that handle this stuff yet.
Yeah.
And I insulted the hell out of that man by not responding to him, giving him equal time to what he gave me. Sorry, I can't do that.
It happens all the time.
There's not a structure to say that.
Right. Happens all the time.
That's why I like sometimes doing that one-line reply from your phone because it kind of gives you a little bit of an out,
what is it? What is
pre-programmed responses for your phone?
Yeah, what do you say?
Unfortunately, Gmail doesn't do canned responses in the Android app, and that's actually one of the things that I really wish that it did have. So I use Gmail's canned responses on the desktop. So if there's something that needs a canned response, I'll put it in follow-up, and then when I'm back on my computer, I'll do that. So sometimes I am handling stuff more than I need to. But I'm saying if somebody sends me a long email and I just have one-line thing to say, it's almost good if you do it on your phone and you have that sent from my mobile because it's kind of this socially acceptable way to be brief without being impolite.
I do put that in my signature now. It says sent from my iPad, sent from my iPhone, sent from my Nexus One. So they understand.
And now you can put a rich text signature in your
Yes, you can.
well, maybe Gina's tips. I don't want to say anything. I'm sorry.
That was my tip, but that's okay.
All right, never mind. No, we're not
coming up.
Coming up.
So Google has responded to the Street View fracas. Having spoken to the relevant regulators, we've decided to start Street View driving in Ireland, Norway, South Africa, and Sweden once again. Notice Germany.
Hi, Grandma. They're coming.
Germany's not on this list.
No.
We expect to add more countries in time. Here's the deal. Our cars will no longer collect any Wi-Fi information at all. But we'll continue to collect photos and 3D imagery. We recognize serious mistakes were made. They took a line from the White House. Serious mistakes were made in the collection of Wi-Fi payload data, and we have worked...
At least we're not polluting the world with oil.
Yeah! Could be worse! And we worked so quickly to rectify them. However, we also believe Street View is a great product for users, whether people want to find a hotel, check out a blah, blah, blah. So basically, they're saying that both the hardware and software will have been removed to do this from all Street View vehicles before they resume driving, but they are going to resume driving.
I wonder if they're taking away the phones of the people so that they can't have their own Wi-Fi on.
Well, I bet they're going to sanitize the hell out of it, right?
I'll bet they are.
And
I found to my shock yesterday, Street View came to 1 block away from me, and I live way out in the boonies.
I want to see the Street View car because I want to moon them or something. I mean, I figure people now kind of know that that's what's going on when they see that wacky vehicle go by.
It's got to be recognizable now. I wanted to go down the street that the San Diego Convention Center is on Comic-Con weekend. That's what I want. So we can get some stormtroopers on the map.
Start picking good times to do stuff.
Yeah,
You're right, Gina. You are right. That's like getting the great moments from the sky. You want to propose great moments to do Street View.
Yeah, definitely. You know, the Google the airplanes flew over O'Reilly's campus in Sebastopol when Foo Camp was going on a few years back. I want to say it was like Foo 607. So yeah, so if you zoom into the O'Reilly campus on the Google Maps, I think it's still there. You'll see their yard is full of tents. And some people,
that's great.
Yeah, they had some like soccer playing robots, and people set up some
that's neat.
some projects and stuff, which is cool.
That's really neat. When I was at Foo Camp this year, I met the guy who piloted the Street View shopping cart through the museum in Tehran in Iraq.
Ooh.
Cool.
Yeah, pretty neat stuff. So we talked last week about Google buying an airline travel information service. Facebook has acquired one now. Next Stop. It's a user-generated traffic guide.
So they said this was mainly an acquire, a hiring of talented.
It's a talent acquisition, they call it. Yeah, because if it's user generated, you're not really getting much value from the data. It's a shame though, because I hate it when this happens, like CDDB getting acquired by Gracenote. Here's a database that was kind of created out of altruism and goodwill by individuals, and then a big company gets it.
Well, there's another way around this. Is AOL has what the heck's the name of their mapping service? I can't even remember it now. We used to Mapquest. And so Mapquest is switching to using the OpenMap platform.
Good. Oh, Open Map. What is it called?
What's it called?
We interviewed them. It's such a great project, and it's amazing.
But what's kind of great about it is that way they're not buying it, but they're getting the benefit out of it.
OpenStreetMap.
OpenStreetMap. That's right.
Fantastic project. It's basically a wiki for mapping, and because so many people have GPSs now, I mean, I looked at my neighborhood. It's better than Google Maps. It's very detailed. They got elevations.
If you take the wiki, cultural view of the world, maybe it could even have more local data than Google Maps has.
Precisely. And they do things like hiking and biking trails that are hard to get a Google Street View van down. They say
surplus.
Yeah. Not in my house, but somewhere. September 1st. I'm in a big deficit right now.
Cognitive deficit.
Cognitive deficit. That's gonna be my book.
You need to buy some cognition from somewhere.
It's gonna be a very short book.
What?
I'd write a book, but I have cognitive deficit. I'll let you know when I've got a surplus. Starting September 1st, Next Stop will shut down the site. In the meantime, you'll be able to export your content. Next Stop will not share its users' personal information with Facebook. They didn't, they'll protect you in that case. That's good news.
Social travel is kind of an opportunity. I use TripIt, and I love
TripIt. Oh, I'm going to add you to my
TripIt's
network.
Awesome. Yeah, add me. It's fantastic. It's so great.
So for those who don't know, TripIt is a site, TripIt.com. In fact, another guy I met at the founder at Food Camp. I had fun at Food Camp.
Oh, you sure did.
Boy, did I meet some great people. Anyway, I met the founder, and I said, I love TripIt. I made kind of a fool of myself. He said, well, you kind of made my reputation with my little kid, my son, because I was talking about TripIt on the radio, and they happened to be in the car. And he said, Daddy, they're talking about your company. And it gave him some
sweet.
credit. Yeah, so I feel good.
Validated his career to his son. I love that.
Yeah, to his little kid anyway.
Yeah.
It's like Bozo the Clown saying, hey, kids, TripIt. So TripIt is a website, free, but I'm a premium member. I'm sure you are too, Gina. And you go to this site, actually set up an account, and then whenever you get travel confirmations, you email plans@tripit.com, and it chews on them and builds an itinerary.
Yeah, you just forward, your confirmation from your airline or your hotel, and then it just builds the itinerary, and it tells you how many miles you've logged in a year. Like, I love the stats. It tells you if your friends are going to be in the city at the same time. It's for road warriors for sure. I really didn't see the true value until I had like 6 or 7 months where I had a lot of trips, and it was fantastic. I used it all the time.
I wish it had existed when I was more of a road warrior. I could have really used it. And of course, there's interesting here in that nexus of mobile and web. There are mobile apps for it, which are great, and they were smart. They exposed an API, so they're third-party apps. Although I can't remember his name. The CEO of TripIt said, "You're going to use our app, though, right?"
The TripIt Android app is great.
It's fantastic. It's
Great.
fantastic.
I stopped printing out, the address of my hotel or having to look at my email. I just launched. You land in a new city and you bring up the TripIt app, and it's like, here's directions. I know what to tell the cabbie. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and you can add pictures. It gives you weather, as you said, maps. It's really nice. He told me some new features that are coming. And I put pictures in as I'm going to places. Yeah, I mean, it's really,
your itineraries look much nicer.
What was the one that was bought by Nokia?
Was it Telenav or Navtech?
No, I don't mean that was the TripIt similar one.
Oh, something like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if I have old trips on here. I could show you my trip to China. Yeah, past trips. This is one when I first started using TripIt for the travel that I was going to do. I ended up putting in all these pictures. As I went to places, I'd put more pictures in of the places I was going. And it really was kind of fun because it was a way to think about the trip and all the places you were going to go visit. And now it's kind of I don't know, it's just kind of a document I have. It's kind of neat. Anyway, how did we get into TripIt.com?
Oh, we were talking about
God knows.
Facebook purchasing this next stop.
Oh, yeah.
And
All right,
social,
very good.
Social travel.
Social travel.
So in that respect, TripIt, you can follow your friends.
Yep.
And you use that?
Yeah, I have a few friends who travel around, and so yeah, I get these TripIt alerts that say, so and so is in New York this weekend, or you and so are going to be in San Francisco around the same time,
that's
and it's kind of neat.
So,
And actually, yeah, Anil and I use it to kind of coordinate our trips for Expert Labs.
So I want to add you to my address book. I just need to add you, I guess. I'll have to figure that out. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of Anil, he tweeted that you've got to change the name of Think Tank. What's the deal?
We do. It's a simple thing. Another company has software that does crowdsourcing, very similar to what we do, and they had the name first, and they asked us really nicely to change ours, because to reduce confusion and Google juice and that kind of thing. So we are on the hunt for a new name. They were very gracious and gave us some time to come up with a new name and switch over, which is nice. A lot of times these things are like, here's a lawyer, you need to do this in 3 days. They were super nice. So yeah, we're on the hunt for a new name. We're lots of brainstorming happening.
Any good choices in there?
I don't want to throw any out there because we haven't decided on one yet.
It's torture. It's torture. I hate doing that now.
Let's be honest. Choosing a name
it is really hard.
Really hard. It is. I have some anxiety
in the
about
end, it doesn't much matter. Daylife, where I'm a partner, I when they came up with the brand, I thought it sounded like a day spa. And I wanted to get a massage there, and now it just sounds like what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It doesn't matter. I don't. It's so hard. You don't want to get stuck into that sort of the typical startup. But you realize in the naming process is how all these companies come up with what sound like sort of crazy names. Ultimately, it's the product that matters and not the name. But you do want to come up with something good, something that someone has used before. So it's a challenge.
It's getting harder and harder, I have to say, because it's not
is.
just a name. It's not just a trademark. You have to get a website. You have to get a this and a that, an email.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gotten much more complicated.
Yeah, it has. So we're working on it.
Jeff, it's good we named our kids a few years ago, because nowadays I don't know how you name kids.
No, because you want domains. I mentioned that in the book, that there are families who now check domains before they give the kid the name.
Families? I would guess everybody does that.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So it was originally Twitalytic.
Yeah, it was originally Twitalytic, which was my idea. I'm the engineer.
I like Twitalytic.
It was very much a programmer name. We didn't do our due diligence. We really should have researched a little more. We were concerned. Dave Weiner.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, Dave wrote.
We consulted with him, and he gave us his blessing and said that to his knowledge, no one else had been using the name, and so we really appreciated that. So we thought we were free and clear, but we weren't. So that's okay. And projects go. I feel like this is a kind of mandatory growing pain of any project that's got sort of traction, right? If someone's worried about us using their name, then we've actually got something. So I'm trying to look at it that way.
Yeah, there you go. It's a positive.
I've got kind of an interesting Google-related story. 23andMe, which is that personal genetics analysis service that Sergey's partner founded. They did a sale a while back. It was like $99 to have your genome analyzed, and so I jumped on it because normally it's like $500 or something. And I got my results back, and I need to write this up. I haven't written it up, and obviously it can potentially contain a lot of sort of really personal information. But I am very relieved to find out that I have most likely brown eyes, which I can confirm. I genetically tend toward straighter hair than average, which I can also confirm. Looking at me. I have, and this is kind of gross, wet earwax. I know you all wanted to know that.
Yeah,
and
wet, very wet.
Toward dry skin. So.
But here's the weird thing: she's related to Eric the Red. So Don't they tell you that, like where your people came from and stuff like that?
They do. They do. You kind of have to fill in all this other information about your parents or your grandparents, and I actually haven't gone that far. I need to dive into the results a little more.
It's incredibly broad.
One of the scarier things was they said, we have all these results for you, but we've got this one result that you have to unlock to see. So I click on unlock, and it says that there's a particular gene that has a very strong correlation to Parkinson's disease, and it knows whether or not you have this gene, and it wants to let you know. But like, in order to find out, you need to understand that this could be potentially really scary information, and maybe you don't want to know, and all this stuff. So I'm sitting at my computer, just like, thinking about Parkinson's disease. It's a little bit of a scary thing. I don't have it. It was
so
a
you
very.
didn't say yes yet?
I did. I checked. I'm good. I'm in the clear.
So they're warning you that
they know whether or not you have this gene, which is kind of has this strong correlation.
And you
I'm
said okay, and then they said you don't.
Right. I said okay, and then they said you don't. So it was.
What did they bring it up for?
Yeah, it was one of these kind of user experiences where I was like, did I need to go through all that anxiety before I looked at that?
Well, I guess it's like, call the doctor back.
I hate that.
If they only told you if you had it, then as soon as they tell you that you should.
Yeah, but she doesn't have it.
Right. I don't.
So what do they randomly pick a sample of people who don't have it to warn them, so that the people that do have it will know that? Well, just because you see this warning doesn't mean you have it. I mean, what are they doing?
I don't know. I don't know what that it was.
Has anybody else done 23andMe? Did you get warning that you had Parkinson's?
I got the thing.
She got the warning too.
No,
I didn't get that. Of course, I looked 2 years ago. Maybe it's new, but I did 23andMe.
It's the new one. Everyone who gets that test, the new test, gets that information available to them, and they can choose whether to look at it or not.
So Anna
or
Ravenscroft
whether
is in
to
studio.
talk to their doctor
Got
and
it.
ask their doctor about it, so that people don't get scared and sue them about freaking out. That, oh my God, you told me.
So everybody who opts for that test is going to get the warning that we don't want to tell you the result of the test unless you understand the ramification. Oh, that's fair. And Alex, did you have Parkinson's disease? No, he doesn't either. Okay. You're okay, Anna?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So all three of you got warned but didn't have it. So don't worry if you get the warning.
I'm adopted, and
So that must be interesting if you're adopted, because you didn't know anything. Yeah.
So it was wonderful
All right,
for me
I
and
might
for
do
my
this.
kids to be able to
Sure.
give them some family medical history.
Well, Leo, aren't you getting your entire genome done?
I never heard back from them.
Well, you're kidding me.
Maybe they don't want it. I don't know. Yeah, I did this whole thing with George at Harvard, and I said I volunteer because there's only like 20 people and it's expensive and blah blah blah. And no, nothing. So maybe I'll just do 23andMe.
It was a
So
bizarre
so I
experience
look
to
at
have
it,
on
and
the
guess
web.
what? My ancestors are from Europe.
You're kidding. Shocking.
I can't be.
definitely-
Well, but the funny thing about this is, there's a family picture of my grandmother on my mother's side, and my wife says, Jeff, she's black. She's African American.
Oh, that's good.
And it does look like that. But no, the 23andMe said, I would have liked that a lot. I would have especially.
Jeff, you're about the whitest guy I've ever met.
Exactly.
I mean, there's
Wonder
no.
Bread's named after me. Yeah.
Well, I suppose you go far enough back, we got a little bit of everything in there, right?
I would have liked
Yeah.
it, but I'm still just as boring as I ever was.
So would you? I haven't done this. Would you guys recommend? Is it a cheek swab? Blood? What do they do?
Spit cup.
Spit, and more spit.
That's easy. I got lots
Yeah,
of spit.
It's a really bizarre experience.
Can I
Not
give them
only is
wet
the spitting
earwax
in the cup-
instead?
Yeah, it's wet or dry earwax. Apparently, you either have one or the other. I guess it's like
Okay.
whether or not your ear is attached. But getting the Parkinson's news was a very strange thing to happen in a web browser. Like, I was definitely
Yeah.
this is weird.
Yeah.
But interesting.
Well, now we
It's
know.
funny, Gina, you call that a UI issue.
She's such a programmer.
It scared me half to death. Although
No,
I
it's
spent
the
the rest
UI
of
of
the
life or
afternoon
death.
I feeling like I'm so happy to be alive and healthy. So I guess that was a good thing.
So this is
The next ad you see is for a travel around the world, because what the hell, I'll celebrate.
Right. Exactly. Where do I want to travel in the next 7 hours?
but I mean, you can see all the diseases and traits that they cover. I mean, it's incredible, and I guess they know the gene markers for all of these things. Wow.
So, Anna, you're saying if I had the old test, then I wouldn't have some of these things?
Yeah, they've added some new things on the new test.
Anna, pull that mic in front of you because we actually do have a mic that you can speak into. You're just a little bit off mic there.
That was my fault.
No, it's my fault. I should have just done this in the first place. Go ahead, Anna.
There is a new test, an upgrade that you can do, and you spit in the tube again and resend it, and they will do a lot more gene sequencing to find out new things that they know. And they're adding new things all the time based on studies that come out. So,
is this the best one, you think?
It's
obviously
the one that I found really cool.
All three of you have done it. It must be a good.
Well, the other thing is I haven't really played with this yet, but it does let you. People can come to you and say, "We're related. Do you want to connect?"
Oh boy, that's scary. Talk about it. I already got an email problem. I don't want to open that can of worms.
Oh, I got a lot of worms in my can, man. my family's from the hills, West Virginia, so God knows.
You got a pretty mouth.
I do. We
like a woman.
Cousins liked each other a lot. Yeah.
Let's take a break. We're going to come back. Actually, let's not take a break. I don't have a commercial. Let's go right into our tip, pick, and tip number and tool of the week, starting with Gina Trapani. Her tip of the week.
Sure. Jeff mentioned it earlier. Gmail now supports.
That's okay. You didn't give the details.
Gmail now offers rich text signatures. And, honestly, I wouldn't have thought this was that big a deal. I'm a big fan of plain text email, but I built this Firefox extension for Gmail, and this rich text signatures is one of my most requested features.
That's what Google
Gmail
said, too.
Same thing. Yeah, it's amazing. So a rich text signature just means you can use HTML to format your name and your contact information. You can add a company logo. And so now this isn't even a labs thing. This is just in settings. If you go to Gmail settings, you can create a signature with images and colors and formatted text. And you have the option for either plain text or rich text.
I'm going to make my entire signature in Comic Sans. What do you think?
Comic Sans, baby. There you go.
Yeah.
What was the LeBron font?
Yeah, that was it. That's the LeBron font. We call that the LeBron. This is the Cleveland Cavaliers style signature now. Can you put images in there as well?
Yeah.
I believe you can, yeah.
The Google shows a Google logo there.
I could get a link. I could put an email address. So what do you think about this? I mean, it's better than HTML, I think, right?
Well, I think it is HTML ultimately.
Oh, it is. Oh,
I think so.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a constrained HTML. You can't.
I'm a nerd. I'm plain text email all the way. But I think most normal people like to format their email to look nice.
Right.
And it's about time. It's been years. People have wanted to know. This is kind of like the big thing that people wanted in Gmail, was be able to control their signature or format that signature.
When I saw that you put that in there, what my wish was I wish I could put a legal signature. I'm driven nuts.
Is there a legal signature?
Well, what I do now is I just put a GIF onto documents because I get driven nuts. I still have a fax machine. I have a separate phone line for it. I want to kill it. And there's just these legal documents that you've got to, every time I do a speaking engagement, I've got to give them the tax form with a legal signature. And I just get fed up with it because it's the only thing that ever fax anymore.
But what makes it legal?
You're talking about an image, a scan signature, an electronic signature, you mean?
Yeah, one that they would accept, yes.
What would make it legal? I mean, if it's just a scanned signature?
Well, then you get into the whole thing we haven't discussed on the show, which is the White House's effort to create, an identity card, an online identity card. I suppose at some point that's what it is.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I verify I am Jeff Jarvis, and I say yes to this. It's probably the only really legit way to do it, but I fake him out now by just putting on a GIF.
Why not? Just put a GIF in there.
Wait, your Twitter verified account isn't good enough?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's why I like the Google Profiles thing. You can get verified there. Mm-hmm. We got to get somewhere with that. All right, rich text signatures. Gina doesn't like them, but use them. We know you want them.
If you want them, they're there.
Did they degrade gracefully? I guess they would. If I said I only want text emails, I'd probably get the text. Right?
Yeah, they should.
Yeah.
They should, but that's a good experiment. I'm going to experiment and find out.
Can I think I can tell Gmail I don't want anything but plain text.
Well, actually, you can compose in either plain text or rich text, but the email that you receive in the Gmail client anyway displays as as it was sent.
I can't turn off HTML or RTF. Oh, Anna says she knows a way to do it. There's some magic way to do it.
It'll give you a button, say show images. It gives you the option.
Yeah,
to
I see
toggle
the images
on.
thing. Yeah, show all pictures. Only show pictures I've chosen for my contacts. Oh, that's contact pictures. Personal snippets. All right. Anyway, I'm sure we'll find out now. That's one way. That's one way to find out. Is just assert the opposite and see what happens. Jeff, your number of the week, my friend.
Well, I stockpiled them.
Many numbers.
It could have been mobile Facebook hits 150 million users, up from only 100 million in April.
I stayed away from that one.
Squarespace spending $38 million
by the way,
investments to compete with WordPress and 6 Apart.
We're very happy about that because Squarespace is one of our
we like that. More money
signature
for us.
sponsors. And I got an email from them last night saying, you're going to see this cross the wire. Big news. That's a lot of money for a blogging platform.
Great. I think it's really gutsy to come in at this stage. But it wasn't that. It could have been that the iPhone 4 recall would cost $1.5 billion, but we're tired of talking about iPhones.
And there's no way in the world Apple's going to recall this thing.
Though I'm waiting for some suits on this. I think that,
there already are.
Was devastating.
There already are lawsuits. Yeah, absolutely.
So what it is, because I want to ask you guys, is 4K, which is the YouTube goes to the 4K video up from the 1080.
Huge.
How does that? The question I have for you is, on my laptop screen or on my TV screen, does that make a big difference, or is that because they said that properly should be on a 25-foot screen projected by a projector the size of a refrigerator?
No, I disagree.
So, does it just waste a hell of a lot of bandwidth?
Yes.
That's all.
So what 4K is twice the width and twice the height of HD TV. So it's 4,000 by 2,000. Let me put it this way. I've seen a lot of 4K displays. This is one of the things that I keep saying. Instead of 3D, it's already been, Hollywood's behind the standard. There is a standard for it. There are cameras that can do it. These red cameras can do it. I've said it for a long time. Forget 3D. Give me 4K. This is real. And if you see a beautiful 4K display, it's hard. It looks like you're looking at a window. It's very hard to tell it from reality. It's very effective. So the story is YouTube is now going to offer 4K videos on YouTube. The problem is, as you said, first of all, you need a 4,000 by 2,000 display, which most people don't have. I guess if you had a 30-inch display.
Well, even on HD, the max is HD, so there's no way I can see any difference.
On a regular TV, you won't see it. On a computer display, you might. There are 2,000 lines of resolution on some computer displays.
Okay.
But you also need a lot of bandwidth. They say 4 megabits, but that's to watch it in real time. And that's, means you need at least 8 to 10 megabits in practically.
Is this a little shot across the bow of the ISPs, just like Google Towns, which they put up as a website, by the way?
It makes sense that if you're going to do gigabit networking, this would be one of the applications, hyper-real video.
Okay. All right.
It's a bizarre thing to support because few people can create it. Fewer still can watch it. It takes a lot of something to watch.
I'm looking at the playlist. There's a playlist of YouTube videos.
Yeah,
that
we
exist
played
now
it. We
of
played
4K.
some of them on MacBreak Weekly. We talked about this, but
they look they look high quality.
You can't tell, Gina, because you're not.
Yeah,
seeing...
that's it looks like a high quality YouTube video.
Yeah,
Which even if you pause it on a frame, you still there's still some fuzziness. It's not like it's as good. A single frame still isn't as good as, say, a still picture.
Well, you're watching it on the freaking internet.
Right.
So it looks nice. Look at the thing that kind of is mind-boggling is that we're even to this stage at this point.
Yes, that's true.
When it was just a couple of years ago that we started doing. Alex Lindsay started doing 1080p video for the Mac Break podcast, and nobody could watch it. You couldn't even see it. So I think what Google's saying is get ready, high quality videos on the way, and YouTube. It's interesting because what it's also saying is YouTube. I think this is the semiotics of it is, hey, we're not just groin shot videos. We're going to be a place that you will come to watch high quality video.
That's twice in one broadcast that you use the word semiotic.
I just learned that.
If you use inchoate, I'm going to get you a gift New Yorker subscription.
Oh, boy.
Too late. I already have that. In fact, God damn it. I'm sorry. Gosh darn it, New Yorker. A PDF of your magazine does not count as an online version. Would you please get it out there? This is ridiculous. If you're a subscriber, you can go online to the website and read the entire magazine, but it's a freaking PDF. I just want...
He just wants to get that out there.
He doesn't ask much.
I don't ask much.
He doesn't ask much at all. All he wants is a little bit of technology since 1990.
Yeah, really.
Relatedly, my book is now available as an EPUB and
Thank
Kindle
you.
version.
Yay, Gina. I keep waiting.
Not just the PDF.
I keep waiting, and I know it's regressive and all that, but if the New Yorker did an iPad app, I would buy it. Absolutely. So you may remember that a couple of months ago, about 6 months ago, Google bought Picnic, which is a online kind of JavaScript-based photo editing service. You've probably used it on Flickr, and they were offering it on I think as a paid version. But now, if you use Picasa Web, you will find an Edit in Picnic button, and Google has now made it public, which is fantastic. I think Picasa Web is really kind of underappreciated. It's not Flickr yet, but it's getting there. It could really be Flickr in some ways. Let me see here. Let's just click on an image. So this is my tool, obviously, my tool of the week. There's my teeth. Now, if I wanted to edit those, press a button, and there goes Picnic. This is, I would guess, Gina, an HTML5 app, right? I mean, or is it Flash? It might be Flash. Might be Flash.
Maybe Flash.
Yeah. It must be Flash.
What happens if you right-click on it? Do you get the Adobe?
Yep.
Yep, that's Flash.
That's Flash.
All right.
But you can do a lot of cool things with it. Rotation, red eye reduction. It has some nice auto-fixing features. And then there's a premium version, which you can also buy for starting at $2.08 a month. Which is interesting because Picasa is free and Picasa Web's free. But for some reason, they want to make us a commercial version as well. Still a lot cheaper than Photoshop.
Which is overloaded with too much functionality.
Yeah. I think this is for most people what they're going to need. Red eye, sharpen, exposure, resize, crop. Yeah. It's kind of the fundamentals. And then if you buy the premium, you get things like you can print stickers and stuff like that. They have more touch-up tools. It's just a matter of time before the functionality of Photoshop and Lightroom and Aperture is available online. This stuff is getting very close.
And this looks like a Chrome OS play, right? Because you can edit your image in Picasa on the desktop, but this is kind of an option when Chrome OS comes out that you'll be able to edit your images.
Exactly.
Yep.
Oh, speaking of Chrome, Gina, since you did this, I think, or someone did this on Lifehacker. Have you used Chrome to phone?
Yes. Yeah, we talked about it last week.
That was our pick last week.
Yeah,
that's when I went off the air.
Oh, we lost you. That's right.
Okay, never mind. I'll watch the replay.
It's great. I use it all the time now.
Okay,
yeah, it's really neat.
Another reason to stick with Android, I have to say.
Oh, look at that, Gina. Look at that smug Gina smile.
Oh, that's not smug. That's genetically pure. It's brown-eyed, straight hair, wet wax smile.
Open source loves you. Come back.
Enough of this.
This is the thing. I'm an open source advocate. I feel I'm certainly a Google advocate, but Google and my values are aligned right now, and open source loves you.
Yeah.
And
Leo, we're going to use two phones because you're never going to be down to one phone. So you got two phones. What are they?
Oh, I think definitely right now the iPhone 4 and the Nexus 1. The only thing that really is keeping me on the Nexus 1 is I'm hoping that the Samsung or the Droid X will go to 2.2 because Froyo is great. Really, really think it's important. And, I can't wait to get App Inventor and play with it. But I think I'll still work on doing it the old-fashioned way with the clips and stuff. I think you're right. It's open. And there's just a whole lot to be said for that. And I think the fact that there's almost 100,000 applications says a lot. That tells you the developers are embracing it. And that's what you really need for that ecosystem.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I'll go with two phones. I'll get an iPhone 4 once they fix this thing. Tell me if I should or not.
Well, what's your reception like with your old iPhone? Was it good?
It's better than T-Mobile, but not great. So that's why I'm thinking the Android phone I'm going to get on Verizon.
Yeah, why not? And then you'll have an iPhone, so when you travel, you can use the iPhone.
And use it to tether to MiFi.
There you go.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Will you convince my wife?
honey. It's part of his. It's tax deductible, Jeff. You do a show about Google for crying out loud. You got to. Jeff Jarvis is at buzzmachine.com, and if everybody runs out right now and buys his book, What Would Google Do? He'll be able. Yeah, there it is. He'll be able to buy
another
a phone. That's all. If you really cared, you'd buy this book. Jeff, it's always great to talk to you. Gina Trapani is at smarterwear.org. I don't know.
I know.
My
Underwear,
brain just
smarterwear,
died. Underwear.org. By the way, Jeff, my new man packs came. Thank you very much.
Oh, they did.
Speaking of underwear, Jeff, they called me. They said, Leo, we just want to thank you for buying man packs. And well, they don't. They're too small to buy an ad, Jeff. Come on. So we'll give them a free ad. Underwear by mail. My son and I both get every 3 months, we get a man pack in the mail. And you know what, Jeff? I'm not talking to my daughter, and I look at the back of her phone, and she's got a sticker that's men's underwear. I said, did you get that out of my man pack? And she said, yes. She said, it's just so random. I said, yeah, they sent me stickers of BVDs. So there's another good reason.
Stylish too? Stickers too?
Stickers too. You want to see? They're really good looking underwear. No, I better.
Yeah.
We've had enough crotch shots for the day. Gina Trapani, the book is The Complete Guide to Google Wave at CompleteWaveGuide.com. A must-have if you're going to embark into Wave. And as I said, smarterwear.org. Thank you, guys. It's great to talk to you once again. And we'll invite you all to join us live. We do this show every Wednesday afternoon, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 2000 UTC at live.twit.tv. The chat room is irc.twit.tv. Always fun. It's a great way to talk back to us as we're doing the show. And you can, of course, subscribe to the show and get it absolutely automatically in your Android phone or your Google phone or your iPhone just by going to twit.tv/twig, and there's subscription information there. By the way, Audible now out for iPhone and Android phone, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, I have to say. We'll see you next week on Twig.